What's going on? Hey, it's your boy Mike from 424 Recording, and today a little something different. I'm doing a quick mix run through breakdown of Zaptuda from Not So Alamo. If there's another song you want to see the mix breakdown of, let me know. This one comes at you from Bobby. Actually, asked me a couple of weeks ago I think when the album came out, or a month ago now. I'm not even sure. It's been a while. Oh, maybe it was back in April. Actually, damn, time flies. Uh, I put out this album. I was working on it for National Solo Writing Album Month, and then I put it on the back burner. Jason asked me to put something on his label, Painted Blonde. I said, yeah, man, sure. Gave me a deadline. Got the tracks together, recorded them. Bing, bam, boom. So that's the origin of this song. I think there's copies still available. BeCoolCowboy.bandcamp.com. We did a second pressing. Probably by the time you see this, I don't know. Maybe you're watching this year. Maybe you're watching this in 4 years. I don't know. Maybe there's still some left. If you're watching it in 2019, there's almost definitely some left. So if you want one, don't forget to snag one. Not necessary at all, but they're out there if you're interested. So I wanted to do this one really quickly. One thing I also wanted to try and experiment with was Logic's drummer, which you guys probably know. I talk about it a lot. Anders is my homeboy. Oh, it might be a good shirt. Anyway, so here's the thing. Here's my mix. Let's talk a little bit about just the tracks at first, and then we'll get into the sounds. I use the drummer, Portland kit. I really didn't do much effects at all. Here, as you can see, my whole mix for the drums. Portland Plus means the producer kit, which means you can edit the tracks even further if you want. It'll break them down. I think if you touch this, yeah, that sounded weird. If you touch this arrow, if you hit this arrow, it'll just it breaks it down. So now you can literally, this is a really good trick for practicing your drum mixing if you're looking to mix your drums or see what different things do on drums. I literally left them however the algorithm producer mixes them. I said, yeah, that's fine. I want to get this done. I have all these tracks sitting around for a while. I don't have time to go hang out with Jay and record them. Jay doesn't have time to record them. He's a busy guy. So, rather than take up both of our time trying to blast out some drums, it was easier to do it like this. So anyway, it's really cool because it breaks it down by, look, you got overheads, kicks, snare, top and bottom, hi-hats, the toms, the room sound, the leak sound. You can really mess around with this if you're interested. That's the Producer Plus kit. And it breaks it down. And originally I was thinking, I'm going to mix this like crazy because I want to be Mixmaster Mike and do a lot of cool shit. But I thought it sounded fine. It was already cool shit. Why? It don't fix it if it ain't broken, bro. So that's a pretty cool thing, though. I use the Portland Plus kit. That means the producer kit. And I use Max. He's like the punk rock drummer. Shout out to Max, wherever you are, bro. Helping those people get their albums done. Appreciate you, my friend. So, very cool thing. That's the thing. One quick note about it. Like 5 years ago, it didn't sound nearly as good as it does now. And it's gotten to a point where I have drummers that I know calling me up or hitting me up being like, how did you do the drums on this? Like, it sounds sick. Did you play the drums? Did you record them? It's like, nah, bro. It was all Max. It was all an algorithm. So, I don't know. Maybe someday in the near future, we won't even make music anymore. You'll just press a button on a computer and it'll make the song for you, which I think is pretty much where it's at right now if you've ever checked out the new GarageBand functionality and app. Anyway, there'll always be a place for humans in this world. So human power. Although if the computer overlords are watching this, please go easy on me. So basically I made, this is the whole thing right here. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's 11 tracks. That's my song. True, there would have been more if I actually did real drums. This first track is my reference track. It's always important to have a reference track to mix your song to. That's what I made a lot of my mix moves to. This is kind of a weird choice. I think it's Starfucker's song, Khalil Gibran. I guess it's a dude's name. Probably butchering it. But yeah, it's a cool song. I thought my album was going to sound more like this, and the album didn't sound anything like it, but I still used it, and thought it came out pretty good. So as I use that for my mix, but so yeah, we got the Portland, the drummer track. There's 2 bass tracks. These are the Sansamp RBI rack mount unit. I'll show a picture of it or something. I love the Sansamp stuff. Can't get enough of it. It reminds me, I got to do the Trash or Fantastic episode with the Sansamp pedal that Matt sent me. That's on the back burner, Matt. It's coming up. I gotta write this script out. So much to do, so little time. Anyway, we got those 2 tracks. I'll get into that. There's an acoustic, an electric. This electric picking track really doesn't even need to be there. We'll talk about that. We got the vocals. We got my wife actually on this track doing some background vocals, which is fun. And then I have a couple tracks of the OP1 that Jody sent the channel. Jody, what up? If you're out there, thank you so much. The OP1 is sick for a lot of reasons. One of which is just adding a little spice to your tracks. It really helps fill things out. And there's the OP1 is all over this album. And I really got to shout out to Jody for sending that out. I appreciate that. I've been using it a lot, and it's something I always wanted to check out. And yeah, very cool stuff. So I'll get into that too. The composition of this song, it's kind of like a triangle, it's like a right angle triangle here. And it gets, more things are added as the song progresses. Like in the beginning, it's just drums, bass, and acoustic and some vocals. And then as it goes through, an electric comes in, more vocals, and then the OP1. So I think that's usually a good trick for making songs. I think I watched a Joe Gilder episode. He's another YouTube dude that I watch from time to time, comes up in my feed. And he's got some good things to say, and I think this is one of his songwriting tricks, or he's talked about it. Not really a trick, just when you write stuff that's like A, B, A, B, it tends to be, it can get boring. So you want to keep it moving, keep adding stuff, keep it dynamic, or, just keep it changing. Life is about evolution and change, so make sure your shit changes. Okay, so I realize I haven't even played the song yet, and I'm like 10 minutes into this, which is ridiculous. So I'm just going to play the song so we can listen to it, and then we'll break down part of what's going on as we go through. This is all, Logic mix. I thought it sounded fun. Let's add some bass in there. So one thing to note is that the bass is split up into 2 parts. Let's listen to the clean bass real quick. This is the Sansamp distorted part of the bass. Not the best sounding thing by itself, but when you add it, it gives it a little bit of edge. It gives it something to stick out. Because a lot of times if you add distortion to bass without splitting the bass, it kills the bass, like literally the low end, kills that track. So, it's very helpful, I think, it's one of my favorite techniques to do is splitting the bass track. I don't know, if you're making distorted rock and roll music and you're not splitting your bass track, it's time to try it out because you'll have a lot of fun. So yeah, that's the beginning of the song. We got the acoustic, the drums, and that's it, and the bass. The acoustic is on the far right. Hopefully it's split up in the video. And I thought my acoustic sounded like shit, but I had a weird time with this album. I recorded all these acoustic tracks, and then I was like, I don't like the way this sounds, and I think it was just a case of listening to it too much. But I don't think I did any kind of EQing or anything to this. You can see there's no EQ on that or the SansAmp, which the SansAmp doesn't need it. But yeah, other than it just putting it to the right a little bit, that's it. That's all she wrote. No, I didn't even EQ it. I thought it sounded fine. It worked in the mix, you know. I think that's kind of like, I think by itself maybe it doesn't sound amazing, but in the mix, it just works. I don't know. To me, it just nailed it, snailed it. You know, why change it if it ain't broke? Okay, so, you know, the song goes on. My wife comes in a little bit on here. Wanted to have like a vocal that was. Hear that on a lot of stuff. My buddy Sean does that a lot. He'll put like an octave, and I thought it was just cool because I can hit that octave, but it sounds better when somebody else does it with you. So yeah, I had my wife guest star on here. That's not Beck. Unfortunately, it's not Beck the musician. It's Beck, my wife. So, all right. Let's talk a little bit about the mixing moves I did, I guess. I don't know how much of the song y'all want to listen to. If you want to listen to it, you can check the whole song out at becoolcowboy.bandcamp.com, and then maybe this will make more sense. Basically, the electric comes in about 25% of the way through. On the left. It's all one track too. Like right up here you can hear it. Pretty lazy move on my behalf. I just didn't want to make more than one track, and it was easy to play it. I literally just used my TASFAMP. Ooh, sorry about that. You may have heard a little bit of little static there or something. My little SansAmp over here. You know, these it's not SansAmp, TASFAMPs we built. I just dialed it into whatever I thought sounded cool. And you know, it's cool because it's like an overdrive distortion fuzz kind of thing, and it's cool because you can really, I'm sure you have a pedal that's similar, or maybe you even have a TASFAMP. Thanks for everybody who snagged one when we were building these. But yeah, so it's really cool in the sense that it's very how do you say, responsive, I guess, to your picking. So like this first part of the electric is it's like a solo lead thing. I wasn't playing it too hard, so it's not like super distorted, but then when it gets to this part, you can hear the hair on there a little bit. But then when I'm really digging in on that chorus, that's where you can really hear it. So I just didn't want to spend more time on this, you know. I just wanted to like, I always say I'm kind of lazy when it comes to this stuff, which I think is good and bad, but I mean, you can tell just by how I mixed it. Like I didn't even like put stuff on some of this shit, because that's a good point though. You don't have to, you don't have to put anything on any of this if you don't want to. I think there's this like endless tweaking that goes on all the time. I'm sure you know about it. We talk about it all the time on this channel. People will just get caught up tweaking their shit forever and never put anything out. I think this is a direct result of my 4-tracking over the years, because you got to get the sound right in the room. There's not a lot of functionality on the 4-track, simple EQ stuff. But I think with anything, recording anything, the more you get it to sound like the way you want it to sound like before you hit the big red button, the better off it's going to be, the better off you're going to be, the less you're going to have to do in the long run. And I guess it is lazy, but it's also smart. I don't want to sit there tweaking shit. If I can get the sound I want as I'm recording before I even record, like, it's kind of a no-brainer. I guess that's I'd recommend that for your projects. The better it sounds in the room, the more it sounds like what you want it to sound like at the source. That's going to be the magic, I think. That's the magic for me. a lot of these EQ moves, with the exception of the bass, which I'll talk about now, they're subtractive. So I was really just taking shit out that didn't need to be there. So with the bass, I really wanted to match this song. I was mixing to the Starfucker song up here, Kill Lil Gibran, and I don't normally like to boost frequencies like crazy. If it gets you to where you want to be, by all means, I'd say. But I don't really mix like this often. But I didn't feel like the bass had enough low end compared to that track. You know, it's a professional track, and I needed to reference. I don't know what a professional track sounds like. I'm not a professional engineer. Hashtag not a doctor. Like, I don't know where this shit needs to be to sound like. It's all relative. It's subjective. Let me listen to a professional track that I enjoy the sound of, and I'll just mix it to that. So that's why I decided to make these mix moves. This little notch, there was some weird rumbling going on I did not appreciate. So I tried to dampen it, get it out of there. Because you might be saying, Mike, what is that? What is that notch in there? That's what that notch is in there. Okay, there. So yeah, that was the move there. I guess we could listen to it. I feel like we're not doing enough listening. I'm just talking my ass off, but that's okay. It just sounds so much more round, more present in the places where I want it to be present, and it's just very thin comparatively, especially compared to that professional track above. So yeah, always good to have a reference track for your mix. Find something that's in the same vein, something that you like. Honestly, that song sounds nothing like any of the stuff on this album, I don't think. Originally, I thought this album was going to sound more like that song, and then it just didn't, because that's not how I roll. But I still used the track because I thought it was cool. I use presets, I think, for the compression here. Yeah, never too much bass, baby. Hell yeah. Some people shy away from presets. I say, if it helps you understand what you're doing, if it helps you get to where you gotta go, I wouldn't rely on them. I wouldn't recommend just slapping a bunch of presets on and calling it a day. I would recommend using them as a starting point. You know, I don't remember if I changed this. It's been a while. Maybe that is the preset. I thought it sounded good. Like I said, I was trying to do this quick. Basically, what I was looking for and what this is doing is compressing essentially the entire bass signal, because bass is a very dynamic instrument, and it'll be a lot smoother. And bass is one of those instruments I think is hard to record. Definitely one of the hardest things to record, because you can hear that in a lot of amateur people's stuff. They often don't know, even people that are like somewhat not really known, but I guess people who do more mixing than me, it always seems like either they don't know how to handle the bass or they just mix it in a different way. But for me, I like it round and in charge up front, big sounding bass. I ain't afraid of that bass. There's never, and like the preset says, you can never have too much bass, baby. Yeah. So basically, this compressor is a really simple one to show how this works. 1176 classic 2-knob compressor. It's got 4 ratios plus a 5th one. You can push them all in, and really, that's the nuke mode, I think they call it, or something. It's got a couple different meters that show you gain reduction, plus decibels, or you can just have it off. Essentially what's happening here is this is the threshold setting. Everything above, I'm not sure what that is, almost unity. So like I said, almost the entire signal is being compressed by a ratio of 8:1. The attack, as to which the compression is completely on, is 5, which doesn't really mean anything to us, other than it looks like, here's the lowest amount, and here's the highest amount, so it's probably about 75% of the way up. So, it's going to take a little bit of time for the compression to be fully engaged, and then the release when the compressor is no longer compressing or engaged, it's going to take a little bit of time to stop compressing the signal. So essentially, the entire thing's getting compressed by a ratio of about 8x, I want to say. I don't know if that's technically the terminology people use. That's how I always think about it, a ratio of 8 to 1, which is a moderate amount of compression. And then output. So that's the big common misconception with compression is that, oh, well, I just want to make my shit louder. How do I do it? Oh, I just use a compressor. Just slap a compressor on there. Slap on never too much bass on your bass guitar, and you'll be good to go, man. Yeah, I guess so. The thing is, when you use a compressor, you're actually making the signal overall not louder, but you're reducing the signal. You're compressing it. So as you're compressing all those high points of the signal, in this case, it's more so the entire signal being compressed. It's actually bringing the volume down when you're compressing it. You're compressing it. You're smashing it. You're smushing it. So you need that gain, that makeup gain, to raise the signal back up after it's been compressed. So at first, you're bringing the volume down. You're evening it out. You're compressing it. You're taking out all the dynamic range of it because, you know, Mr. Bass Player plucked the string too hard here. The low end doesn't want to come through on this note. When you switch from the low bass string, the low E, to the A string, you know, there's not as much low end coming through on your bass. So now that's a little bit louder and there's not as much bass. So that's why you got to get the compressor on there, man, with the never too much bass preset or any compression if you know how to set it. For me, like I said, I wanted a lot of compression, so that's why I chose this preset. So that's a little bit of a compression primer for you. I hope that maybe helps you understand compression better. Don't be afraid of the presets. People will tell you the presets are the devil. I don't think they're good or bad. I think they can be helpful if you want something, if you want a starting point. You could change these, you know. This sounded good to me, so I kept it. Yeah, don't be afraid of the presets. But I will say it helps to understand what they're doing, right? So you don't want to just slap on a bunch of presets and call it a day. Although, you know, I've done that before. It's when I was learning. I try not to do that, or try to at least understand what I'm doing with it. And as a starting point, I don't think it's bad. But you have to know what your starting point is, why you want to do what you want to do. Like I said, I wanted the bass to be compressed, like the entire signal of it, because I like fat, round, in-your-face bass. I don't want somebody listening to my song, bass drops out, or, you know, the bass is, it's not, you know, I didn't play it properly, or, you know, the high strings cut out when, you know, otherwise I'd have to automate it. Every time I play it up on a higher string and there's a lower amount of bass or a lower amount of volume or something, you know, I want to do that. I want the bass to be consistent. So yeah, that's my reasoning for never too much bass. So I do use presets. I'm not afraid to say it. But I use them more as like a starting point. But like I said, I don't know everything. You know, I'm not purporting to say I know everything, but I'm still learning. I'm still learning all the time. So do what works for you. But I would say it goes a long way to actually understand how this stuff works, rather than just like blindly slapping shit on there. I know I've actually had people master stuff where it was clear they just slapped a bunch of shit on there and wouldn't even listen to what was happening. Anyway, so that's your bass. That's your basic bass day. I'd say you always kind of want to compress the bass, unless you're an amazing bass player, or maybe you don't give a shit about the bass dynamics. Maybe that's the sound you want to go for. Your mileage may vary. I don't know. It's up to you. Whatever you think sounds good, do it up. So the Sans amp, I just left that shit. Wow, that was a really long explanation. I just left that thing how it was. It's kind of like a little crunchy, fizzy top end. Just helps the bass peek through. I didn't adjust that at all. That's fine. I mean, that's more of, like I said, I've mentioned this before. It's more of a spice, a little sprinkling of spice on there to help it cut through. Okay, so moving on. Jesus, we got a long way to go. I'm only like a fifth of the way through this, and we're already coming up on a half hour. So, if you're watching this whole thing, thanks for watching this. If you're skipping around and you get to this point, good odds that you got to this point by skipping it. So thanks for watching. Thanks for skipping around. I'll try to I'm sure somebody will write down some timestamps or something. If you, like I said, if you want to listen to the mix, check it out on the Bandcamp. Because I'm not really playing it here a lot. I don't know. This is the first time I kind of did one of these. I think I've done these a little bit, but anyway, acoustic, not much on there. Like I said, I had this weird moment of, I don't know, does this sound good? I don't like the way this sounds, to I love the way this sounds. And I think that's always a good indication that you do like something if it gives you that big of a swing in whether you like it or not, or it makes you feel something. So I'll just keep it at that point. And it sounds good. It sounds good in the mix, you know. Sometimes it's not prudent to solo things, but I don't know. It depends how you want to go about it. Personally, it works for me. So let's move on. I guess we'll listen to the acoustic for a minute. It's a great acoustic. It's like $100 acoustic Cort. You've probably seen it in some vids. It has kind of like a Beck C change vibe. That's why I got it. I thought it sounded like that. It's got like more of a boomier sound, not so much of a traditional acoustic sound. I like it. So moving on to the electric, that's what comes in next. All the vocals too, we'll talk about that last, I suppose. All right, I'm going to blast through the rest of these. So we got the electric, the vocals, and then the OP1 to talk about. Shout out to Jody, who actually sent me the OP1 to check out. It's been really awesome, Jody. I really like it. It's perfect for synthesizers, I think, in general, but also the OP1 is perfect for adding a little bit extra to your tracks, filling them out. It hits that FM synthesis. I believe it's FM. It really hits some points that, I don't know, I feel like some of these other rock instruments miss, or vocal-wise, I don't fill out. So we'll talk about that more in a minute. But Jody, if you're out there, thank you so much. So the electric, check it out. The electric, I think I'd explained the electric already, right? I was like lazy about it. I did. Okay, well, I won't get back into that. Basically, I wanted it to comes in on the left side, just a little bit. I want this to be an evolving, changing song. I want things to be happening. I want things to be keeping the listener interested. Interesting to note, this electric picking track, it really probably doesn't need to be in there. I accidentally left a mic on when I was tracking this, and I thought it sounded good, so I left it in there. It's what you think it would sound like. It's literally just like guitar strumming, but I felt that it added something to it. Okay, I gotta stop this and start it again. Hold on one second. All right, so that's what that track is. I literally just left it in there. In terms of the EQ for the electric, I guess the electric picking, this is the electric picking. I just took out stuff that sounded bad, basically. That's what I'm up to now with my subtractive stuff, just taking stuff out that I don't really need in there. So the electric, I took out everything. I shelved out everything below 80. I don't want anything contending with my kick drum and my bass track. That's for that. So I used to take out more of the electrics, but it really depends on the mix, and also I don't think it really needs to be taken out. Like sometimes that adds something to the sound of the electric overall. I notched out this one frequency. I feel like this frequency on my Silvertone is always problematic. I don't know why. And then I just subtracted a little bit of the highs, and I think I bumped it up a little bit, back up. I don't know. I feel like that may have been. Oh no, I don't know. I'm not really sure why I did that. Probably because I wanted it to be up a little bit and not in the way that this was EQ'd. Basically, with subtractive EQ, I'm just cleaning stuff up, taking stuff up, helping it sit better. We've had this discussion, Jay and I, on the live stream. Essentially, EQ is one of those things that helps push things back in the mix. I never really thought about it like that. That was something that really opened my eyes. So, Jay, thank you for that. When Jay was talking about it, it does really help move things forward and backwards in terms of the spectrum, the frequency spectrum. I think reverb is also really helpful for this because the example of somebody in a field who's shouting from far away, it takes time for their voice to get to you. And if you can imagine what that sounds like, it can sound like they're far away because their voice is traveling, and also because there may be some echo, there may be some reverb to it, depending on how far away they are. So I think that reverb and echo, echo delay, it can help push things back as well. But that's pretty much what I was doing here with these mix moves for the electric. Just to help it sit better in the mix overall, right? Never get my way again. Some too dumb, some too dumb, some too dumb, some too dumb, some too dumb. You probably don't want to see me just rocking out to my own song here, so let's talk a little bit about the vocals and also the OP1. So vocal-wise, kept it really simple. I did do some comping here. You can see, I think for the most part it was one track, and I also I tend to cut out the negative space. You could gate it, basically where I wasn't saying anything, because sometimes I hit the mic. I usually let it run, but then I'll hit the mic. I'm moving around. I'm breathing. I don't want that stuff on the song, so I just cut it out. You could also gate it out if you want. And then for Beck, I comped her stuff a little bit too, because she's a novice singer. She can hit on key, but not all the time, like most people who are new at singing. So I think sometimes you got to do it. Sometimes I can hit this stuff one take. You can see here a lot of it. The first thing I fucked up, or I didn't like the way it sounded, so I comped that. This looks like it's all one take. This I must have added or moved around. This is all one take. This is all one take. This is all one take. So I think for the most part, these are all just like the first take. I've been realizing that even if I'm off a little bit on my takes, my first take, it's usually the best one. It usually has the best attitude, the best performance, the least amount of thought into it. And for me, this whole album is really a story of that. Is just kind of doing stuff to be done with it. And just being lazy about it, and also, first take, if you know your stuff, is usually the best one, I think. There's something that happens when your brain gets involved, and that first take, I don't know what it is. Like, even though other takes could be better, more on key, or better is so relative, right? But better in terms of the performance, in terms of the hitting the notes. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to say. I'd rather have something be off a little bit and have the right attitude than it be on key. So, vocal effects. Let's take a look. So there's 3 main effects. Oh yeah, also on the electric, there's also this plate. That's something I learned from Dave Anderson. He's Jay's younger brother, who's also into recording and building compressors, and I think, or maybe I don't know. He's into high-end audio. I think he's building some channel strips or something. Anyway, Dave's a great dude. I used to hang out with him at Art Farm. It's a studio around here in Kerhonkson, New York. Yeah, well, I think that must have been a couple years ago. Still when I was at the PO. So, really good dude. And he was somebody who turned me on to plates and plate reverb. This is the Sound Toys little plate. Really, I think these are the best plugins, Sound Toys stuff. I highly recommend them. # not sponsored, but if you're looking for really cool analog emulation stuff that has kind of a lo-fi vibe to it, but also just sweetens tracks and is literally what it sounds like. Sound toys, like a literally a way to play with sound. I can't recommend these enough. My favorite, clearly, easily my favorite plugins out there. I feel like the team there, that might be a cool place to visit. Maybe I could visit them and shoot a little thing. That would be fun. If anybody from Sound Toys is out there, expect an email from me at some point. That's not that far. They're in Burlington, Vermont, which I think is about 4 hours from here. So might be a nice little road trip to do. Anyway, yeah, so Little Plate. Dave had this, I think it was Dave's. He had a big plate reverb. It's literally a huge piece of metal, I guess. I'm not really sure. But he used to send a lot of signals out to it to add a little bit of that dimension, add a little bit of reverb to it. Let me solo that so you can hear what it sounds like. I think it kind of sounds like being outside of a club. I know it's like wicked low. I find that this plate reverb really helps to glue things together, push things back, and also that ocean that's just like sitting there, or not sitting there, moving around of reverb that's in your mix. Like when you add the plate, I don't know, there's something magical about it. I think that's one of the best plugins I've ever used, honestly, that Little Plate one, because it just does what I need it to do, and it sounds great. So there's really no fussing with that. I think I literally just use the default setting. Yeah, default. And then you mess with the decay, you can mess with the mix, you can mess with, cutting the lows on it. There's also a mod switch. I don't know what that does. Maybe I'll do a tutorial on that at some point. Definitely check it out. But plate reverb is really cool. I think it just helps. I think a lot of the stuff I listen to, and maybe the stuff you listen to, there's always a little bit of reverb on stuff, even if it's really close. And I feel like it just helps push it into the mix. Helps. Like I said, glue it in there. Makes it sound more as one whole listening experience rather than a bunch of separate things that were recorded. EQ. Really simple for the vocals. Just cut out the lows. I don't want any rumble in there. I don't want anything that's like I get up, hit the mic, breathe weird, etc. And then I just cut out some of the high mids so that I could push myself back a little bit so that I don't sound like I'm right in your face, which that's kind of what I want it to sound like. And that's why I use this compression preset by Jaquire King, lead vocal. Essentially, this for compression, for what I've been looking to do, I think that this sort of compression on the 1176 really, it's like that sound of the vocal sitting like right on top of the mix and like cutting through. And you can achieve this with, any compressor. It's basically just the threshold of 30. I was looking at the vocal before, from like 30 to 12, I would say 12 is probably the peak, or maybe like 15 decibels is the RMS of the vocal. So everything above 30, anything that's like really, any of the real dynamics. I think vocals, again, along with the bass, two big things to compress because they're very dynamic instruments. Your voice, people go up and down, people move back. If you have bad vocal technique, or, like me, or if you're, you sing things louder, sing things softer, run out of breath, have bad breath technique, like, compression can really help to smooth that out, and that's what's going on here. Any of the stuff that is between on the vocal, because the vocal, like I said, I think it's peak 12, RMS 15. Anything above 30 on the vocal is going to be compressed, because most of that stuff where it lives, if RMS is like 15, that's a pretty good catch. There's not going to be much dynamics to the vocal after this, which is what I want, and I don't know, I would say what most people want. And Jaguar King, I think he does. I hope I'm saying that name right. Jaguar. He does like Kings of Leon. That's a band, right? He does some semi-famous rock stuff mixing. So we'll talk about the output in a second. And then it's got a fast attack, so the compression is happening really quickly. Onto the vocal, like the compression is happening almost instantly, and then it's being released the longest you can on this compressor. So it's happening really quickly. The compression is completely compressed, is completely engaged really quickly, and then the release is like a slower release from it's not immediately not being compressed. It's taking a little bit of time to like raise back up in volume, I guess. And then it's at a ratio of 4:1, so not too much. The lowest setting on this compressor. And then the makeup gain is just going to be relative to how much it's getting compressed. So if you play, let's play it really quick. So this meter is the gain reduction you can see over here. So it looks like on the most compressed parts of the vocal in that passage of the song, it's anything. It looks like I think I can't see. I think -10. So like I was saying before, when you use compression, the common misconception is, oh, it makes everything louder. Let me just compress everything. It does make things louder, but what you're doing when you compress things is actually making it softer first, which is why you need makeup gain. Because using the example of the vocal again, everything above 30 decibels up to about 15, I think we said, that's all getting compressed. That's all being lowered in volume so that it will be more uniform in volume with the rest of the track. So as we're compressing it, we're cutting the volume of it. We're compressing it. We're compressing the signal. When you compress something, you're making it smaller. You're squashing it. And when you do that, you're now losing gain. So this meter is telling you, hey, when those peaks hit, when those peaks are compressed, when the louder parts are compressed, I'm taking them down by 10 decibels. So in order to make up the overall output now, because our signal used to be, let's say it was 15, and if you take it down by 10, now overall it's at -25. So you now have to add more output back to now your compressed signal. So your compressed signal is actually being lowered in volume to make everything smoothed out, and then you need to add that back to it, because otherwise your vocal would be compressed, but it would be lower in volume. So I hope that helps understand compression a little bit better. I say, again, don't be afraid to use presets. I know somebody will say, oh, this guy uses presets. What a joke. What a joke. He doesn't know what he's doing. I would say I don't know everything, definitely. But at the same time, the reason I start with the presets is because I know that they're a good starting point for what I'm trying to do. And they help me get this shit done quicker, man. I'm not a full-time mix engineer. I'm not a full-time musician. I'm a hobbyist. Like, I don't have infinite amount of time to sit around mixing stuff. And I'm assuming you don't either. So it's a good place to start. Don't let anybody tell you not to use presets. I will say that with a caveat. Make sure you know or have an understanding of what the presets are doing. That's why I took time to explain these presets, to have a better understanding of not just like, oh yeah, just use Jaguar King's lead vocal setting. That'll do it. Just use never too much bass. That's my number one bass preset over here. I mean, I don't know. They're a good place to start. If it works for your song, if you know what you want to do, for the bass, I wanted that shit to be squashed. I wanted that whole signal to be getting compressed. So that's why I chose this one. And you know, don't be afraid to use presets. That's all I'm going to say. But have an understanding. I hope this gives you an understanding of like how they're working rather than just like, you know, a preset. Because presets, they're not necessarily the devil. They're not good or bad. But if you don't know what they're doing, you might add something to your song that's not even really helping, or it's not doing what you think it's doing. And I don't know. Experiment, read up on some of this stuff. Maybe that explanation will help you a little bit. And let's move on from there. So I don't think I did much with Beck's vocals. Because she's pretty far in the background. She's background backups. She probably wouldn't want me to solo it, but it's a backup vocal, right? Like I just wanted her to be like almost like a ghost in the background backing me up. Hit that higher octave because I can sometimes not hit it, and also it sounds better with somebody else hitting it, right? So that was my reasoning there. And not like, again, with the backup vocal stuff, I just took out the lows. I mean, I wasn't too concerned about the dynamics of Beck's voice because it's pretty far in the background, and I wanted it to be more of a spice than the meat and potatoes, I guess you could say. I don't know where that came from. And so that's, you know, the idea behind Beck's vocals on the songs that she's on. I needed somebody to do a little octave, and I thought it was really helpful. And then I just added some reverb to Little Plate to give her, to push her back in the mix, and then also give the vocal a little bit of a little echo to it, you know. So that's those. I think that's almost everything. And then the OP1, I literally didn't add anything to it. Like I said, the OP1 just sounds good. It just helps in the mix. Let's take a quick listen. These are also just spice tracks. This is all just spice, man, just to give it a little bit of little different. You know, it's just something to fill it out, something to give the person listening a little extra something. On the first chorus, it's so simple. There's literally just vocals, acoustic, bass, and drums. As compared to when this chorus hits, goes back to what I was saying just about keeping it active, evolving, changing, because I could have just kept the whole song like this, but you know, I don't know, to me that's kind of boring. I'm learning that, like, yeah, it's fine if you write traditional song structures, but you don't want to just I don't want to just do A B A B A B C, call it a day. Like, what makes it fun is adding some extra little parts, changing it up. You know, here the distorted guitar comes in, and the OP1 comes in, so it gives it a much different feel than the first one. And I want the song to be, like, obviously not opening up, but more things happening as it progresses. A build, if you will. It's kind of one big build, you know. So the other thing with the song, it was the way I wrote it was the structure that you see is basically like an improv song, especially the second part. That's why it's like kind of long and different than how I normally do things. I just was kind of like riffing and experimenting, and I mean, Beck was saying this is like her favorite part of the song, the end. Like, that's what I think was cool because I remember trying to change the song a little bit after I wrote the initial, or I just improv the initial structure, and then it just didn't feel right. This was the only thing that felt right, the way that this is structured. So like this bridge area, it's a little bit barren, but it's cool. I really enjoyed it. And then with the vocals, one thing to note, this was actually I was feeling a little writer blocky too, and that's why the vocals are what they are. Um, it's kind of just like a very meta, I guess. But then there's also this part. I kept saying because I'm too dumb, and then I felt like it was almost like that pavement thing. I forget what song that is. I should have prepared. I should have thought about this before I did this, but um, yeah, there's that one pavement track that's like, I'll have to. I forget what it is. I'm sure you've heard this in songs where the vocal kind of morphs into something else as the person saying it. And I thought that was kind of an interesting thing because I didn't want to call the song "Cause I'm Too Dumb" because it kind of seemed a little bit like Nirvana inspired, which is fine, but I don't know if the song was like "Cause I'm Too Dumb," it's just like kind of stupid. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of the vocals in the song is they're kind of dumb. Uh, I don't know. Maybe they're not. They're fine. What am I trying to say here? I didn't want to call the song "Cause I'm Too Dumb." It just seemed like silly. I didn't like that. So, but as I was saying it, it kind of morphed into "Cause I'm too dumb, 'cause I'm too dumb, 'cause I'm too dumb." Like I started hearing it saying "Zap too duh." So it morphed from "Cause I'm too dumb, zap too duh." And then at the end here, it's something similar happens. Oh, because the other thing was, at this point in time, I was having a really hard time sleeping, and I kind of put that into the song. And this part is "Cause I've been awake, 'cause I've been awake, 'cause I've been awake," which transforms into "Zombie Don't Wait," I think. Zombie don't wait, zombie don't wait. And I think that's a helpful tip for people trying to write lyrics, too. I just thought it sounded cool. I don't know, what does it mean? Who knows? Zombie Don't Wait? I don't know. It just sounded cool. Cause I've been awake, cause I've been awake, cause zombie don't wait, cause zombie don't wait. Like it's just one of those things. It's like kind of a statement on those moments where you're saying the same thing over and over again. You know, it's the thing where if you say panel, 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 like if you say that over and over again, it just loses its meaning. And I feel like that's kind of like words in general. It's just kind of like they don't really mean anything. It's just that we all understand what each other are saying because we agree that those words mean something. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just sort of a commentary on that, I suppose. The lyrics, yeah, I had a fun time writing it. I thought it came out really good. And, oh yeah, there's this other OP1 track down here. Fill it out. And it also has like almost like I wanted it to sound like I think that's also why it came out "Zombie Don't Wait," because I came up with this part first, and to me it sounds like a monster bash or something, or like a scary, you're like going into like a haunted house or something. And they're playing this, or the piano's playing by itself. I don't know. I want to make more music that sounds like it's like Halloween themed, if that makes any sense. I don't know if it makes any sense. I just think Halloween is a great vibe, and it's a shame that it only happens one day out of the year. And yeah, I want to explore that more in future albums. Anyway, I hope this was a cool. I don't want to say that anymore. Anyway, I hope this was a good thing for you to check out. Thanks to Bobby for recommending this. I had a lot of fun talking about it. Cabro's sneezing. I had a lot of fun talking about it. This is going to be like an hour long, which is insane. But I hope you enjoy it. I hope that it helps you understand where I'm coming from. Helps me understand where I'm coming from. It's obviously fun to talk about yourself. So if you listen this whole time, thanks for humoring me. Yeah. If you have any questions about anything I didn't cover, or anything I did cover, hit me up in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, all right? We'll catch you guys later. We'll catch you on the flip flop. Make sure you do something you want to do today, all right?